Hello there, you are watching the Punter on Sports Tonight. My name is Trevor Harrison. Joining me tonight, making his punter debut, it's Mike Pett from Unibet. How are you, Mike?
Good, thank you. Yourself?
I'm very well. Just for the uninitiated, just explain who Unibet are.
Unibet are basically an online-only bookmaker, kind of
Right.
a rare breed in the UK, and we've been around for quite a while online, but we don't have any shop fronts, and we're trying to make a big push towards the UK market because we're very big in Scandinavia, but not so big in the UK at the moment.
OK, well, that may well change. We're going to talk football first of all, Mike. Not the men, because they're not through yet, definitely, but the women are. And I watched their first game against New Zealand. I wasn't particularly impressed. They won the game, but it was a poor match, to be fair. Much better in the second game. And, of course, they got this classic showdown now, or group showdown at least, with the Brazilians. And I would imagine it's going to get quite a big audience tomorrow, and it might provoke a few bets for you guys. Yeah,
it's definitely a market that's taken us by surprise. We didn't feel it was going to be too popular, but yeah, the Team GB women have taken a lot of interest, and we've seen quite a lot of from bets on Team GB.
Yeah.
At the start, they weren't too popular, but since the tournament started, they've really started to see some bets coming through.
I suppose it's an obvious question, but especially with Unibet being based in Sweden, as you say, does the fact that the British team are doing well, at least from British punters that use your service, does that increase the kind of turnover of bets on it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a patriotic bet is a massive bet. So obviously the Swedes are heavily backing the Swedish women team. So yeah, definitely.
And what are your thoughts on this GB versus Brazil game tomorrow?
I feel it'd be quite
tonight. Sorry.
I feel it'd be quite cagey. I mean, both teams have really got nothing to play for.
Yeah. Well, they need to top the group. The top of the group's at stake, isn't it?
It is important, but I think maybe a few players are going to be rested.
Yeah.
Neither team has conceded a goal so far, so I see it's quite a low scoring. Perhaps I'd have to edge towards Brazil because of the quality of players they've got.
Yeah.
But then GB have got the home support, so to speak, a mass crowd at Wembley tonight. So yeah, there's a possibility they could win as well.
Yeah, their best player, by the way, Marta. I saw her at first hand in the Under-17 World Cup when I was covering it in Thailand about 8 years ago, and she is I mean, she is the standout female footballer in the world without any question. So I hope she plays tonight,
Definitely.
Just so that everyone, she gets a maximum audience. Talking of maximising the audience, everyone tunes in to watch, not me, probably not even Mike, but the Bet Butler, who's here at his green screen. What do you make of this GB versus Brazil, Butler?
Well, you know what? I think it's going to be a really big game. I think it's a very important match. I disagree with you boys in the studio. I'll tell you why I think it is. I think the winners want to top the group because they avoid the reigning world champions, Japan. Because if you finish right up this group, you play the Japanese. If you win the group, you play one of the third-place teams. So I think it's a big, big game. The only thing I'm trying to think about is 75,000 people going there today. As we've seen about teams at GB, but they're already bringing the excuses out saying, oh, we're not used to the crowds, we're not used to the crowds. 75,000 people watching women's football. Has the world gone mental? I mean, if you look at the attendance for the FA Cup final here, the last FA Cup final, Birmingham against Chelsea, 8,723, and now 75,000 of you lunatics want to pay 55 quid to watch that. I don't know what the world's coming to.
But come on,
Olympic crazy,
no, I've got to
mate.
stop you. I'm going to stop you there. This is outrageous. This is the Olympic Games. You're talking about women's club football. This is the Olympic Games.
No.
This is the home nations.
Mate, the thing is, 75,000 people, it will be quite intimidating. It'll be housewives from Surbiton and under 12-year-olds. So I don't think it's going to be really worrying Brazil here at even money, who are the silver medalists in the last Olympic Games. I mean, Team GB, 49-20, around about 5-2, that kind of price if you like your fractions. These are obviously Unibet's prices. That's a decent price for Team GB. And if you think 75,000 people are going to have a bet on it, say everyone had a tenner, you've got liabilities on it. But as I say, the under-7s, under-8s aren't allowed to bet, so that rules out 76,950 of them. So, I mean, you've got the Brazilians here at 47-20. I don't think a draw's a good result for either team. They've got to go and win it. GB have got to take the game to them, and that means, for me, Brazil win the game. Even money, I think this is a great bet from Unibet here. A good price, even money. I tell you why they win it, because they play this kind of football all the time. They're used to the big crowds. They raise the game at the big occasion, and that is where this whole Olympics theme is going with Team GB. We aren't raising our game at the big occasions, and we can't look up the expectation. And tonight, in front of this kind of crowd, there's only one winner for me. Brazil here at even money show their true class, and that could turn out to be an absolute knocker of a bet, even money. There.
It's interesting. I mean, he makes a good point about the winners avoiding Japan. I think that is a valid point. And of course, a draw would mean Brazil win the group on superior goal difference. What kind? I mean, they don't play for draws, Brazil, do they? Whether they're women's teams, men's, it's not in their nature to do that.
No, definitely not. They're always going to be attacking But as I said, both teams have got excellent defences. But you've pointed out the value of Marta. I mean, she's 13 to 8 to score tonight.
Wow, that is short, isn't it?
Which is very short, and that just shows the quality.
Okay, let's talk about the correct score then. Mike doesn't fancy goals, Butler. What about you?
I don't really either as well. I mean, obviously, looking at people are saying that both teams will qualify, but I think the importance of playing Japan means it's going to be a tight game. Both teams haven't conceded yet in the competition. Mike's absolutely right. They're both very, very defensively strong. But Brazil, all these markets here, Team GB, 9-1 the 1-0, 2-1 the 2-0, and 2-1, 12-1. I don't fancy any of them. I think that Brazil win this game 2-0. I think they might nick it 1 or 2-0, and I'll be concentrating on the Brazilian markets because I do think this even money's a decent bet. I think, if you look at the form, the races coming into this competition, Brazil are in a different league. And just because the crowd has got 75,000 people there and the bookies will have big liabilities in GB means nothing. The Brazilians are the favourites here. These prices here, like I say, GB favourites 1-0, 9-1. But if you look at the Brazilian correct scores, that's where I'll be concentrating more on now. I'll be looking at Brazil to win 1-0 at 13-2 or Brazil to win 2-0 at 10-1 because we know they don't concede. I don't think GB have any threat going forward against his Brazilian defence. And I think here, back in these two combined at around about 7-2, a 1-0 and a 2-0 victory is exactly where you want to be heading tonight. I think it'll be tight. I think it'll be very, very tight for long periods of game. I think it could be a draw half-time and the Brazilians win it at full-time, but I think they get a late goal, and that's why I'm going for Brazil 1-0, Brazil 2-0, and that's why I'm telling you punters to go. Get on the Brazil. But for me, instead of having a few quid on the correct score, I just think this even money with Unibet is too tempting for me. I've just got to be on Brazil to win the match.
You know what I think, Butler, with your dismissive attitude towards the supporters that are going to flock there tonight, your dismissal of GB having a chance in this game, I think if GB beat Brazil, you ought to present tomorrow's punter wearing a skirt. Is that a bet?
Not a problem, mate. Absolutely no problem whatsoever. And if Brazil win easy, we could think of one for you here. But let me tell you something about this. I mean, you talk about intimidating now. It's for Olympic Games. People go in there, mate. I went to the table tennis. That was not intimidating. You go to see the water polo. You go to see these are people just having fun. It's not just because there's bulk of people cheering. It's having a negative for us. It's not having a positive for us. It is. It really is because they're just cheering at the wrong times. People don't even know the rules of handball. They start cheering at the wrong times. But tonight we know about football. But this is going to be more intimidating for GB without a shadow of a doubt. And 75,000 people, and you're used to paying 8,000. But it's not going to be people. It's not going to be an uplifting experience. It's going to be a more of that you would do in a pre-season event, people talking through the match, and that's why the Brazilians, who are used to playing in much bigger crowds, if you look at their attendances, they have about 25, 35,000 people watch it. That's no bother for them, and they'll raise their game. And at Wembley, I always like to oppose England or GB at Wembley because I think other teams now raise their game, and that's why this even money is a gift from the gods. That's going to be the Marta. It's the Marta. Get on the evens. Get on the evens, Brazil. The Samba girls.
He is a martyr to martyr, so to speak. Let's talk about the tournament in more general terms. Sort of under the not really under the radar, but I suppose because Team GB and Brazil have dominated the headlines. Yeah. USA have won their 2 games, and Japan, might be highly rated, but the USA, every single World Cup, whatever age group, every single Olympics in recent years, they're always there or thereabouts.
Definitely, you can't deny the quality they've got. I know France took them to 2-0. France went 2-0 up in the first game.
Did, yeah.
And then the USA showed their quality and came back. And I think that's what's important. I think the fact that they went behind and it didn't faze them, and that they knew what they were doing. They've got the experience at this level. I mean, and I can't see past them or Brazil for the title.
So, I mean, it would be a USA-Brazil final potentially for you?
I personally, that if I was going to put my money on it, yes, definitely.
Yeah. All right, well, let's see how both those teams, and indeed Team GB, feature in the outright market, which Butler has right now, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, we've got through to the nitty-gritty part now. We're getting into the real edgy bit, and they're no surprise. I mean, these are the teams that really surprised me. Sweden, unbeaten, top their group against the world champions Japan, 9-1. GB at 9-1. But really, it's between these top 6. Canada at 28-1. These are here, but all of them have done well. France has scored 2 against USA. They're still rated a 6-1 shot. But again, I think USA at 6-4. I think that's an absolute knocking bet. I think they are the class horse. I think Brazil, if they win the game tonight, they're going to shorten massively. I think they will win tonight, but I still think if they play USA in the final, the Americans will be big odds on over 90 minutes, or especially to win the game. I think they could be around about a 4-6 shot, 4-7 shot, just to win in that competition alone. So I think USA win the whole thing at 6-4. The Brazilians, for me though, if you do fancy them, you've got to back them tonight, because if they get that pass of the drill and win the game and avoid Japan, this price will be around about 15 to 8, 2-1. So for me, USA, without doubt, the values. But the dark horse of the competition so far are the Swedes at 9-1. And I always love watching the Swedish girls playing their football.
I've heard that, particularly Britt Ekland. Let's just talk about the outright market still, Mike. Have you seen the majority of the money for Brazil and the States, or has there been some support for some of the outsiders, so to speak?
Well, Brazil and USA have taken the majority of money, as you'd expect, but Sweden are the team that we've seen the outside money, so to speak.
Is that maybe partly because you're based in Sweden?
Partly because, but not from Swedish customers.
Right.
Okay. A lot around Europe are back in Sweden, and I personally don't know the reason behind it. I've seen a couple of their games; they haven't looked that strong. But yeah, apart from the two favourites, Sweden are the other team that we're seeing the money on.
We're going to take a break. I think it's an opportune moment. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the men's football. We mentioned it briefly. Of course, Team GB not guaranteed to be through. They've got a big match coming up tomorrow night. We'll also be talking about other medal possibilities for Britain, and that will include Tom Daley after the disappointment of his synchronised diving 4th place yesterday, and Bradley Wiggins, fresh from victory in the Tour de France. Can he land Britain's first gold of the Games? He's in the time trial. Back with all that in just a moment. Welcome back. You're watching The Punter on this, the 4th day of Olympic competition. Before the break, we spoke about the women's football. Now we're going to talk about the men's, the GB men's in particular. Now, got to tell you, Mike, that not just myself, but the butler and Chris Graham, our other betting analyst here, all three of us, so it's not often we all agree, but we did, before the tournament, we were all very anti Great Britain's chances. Not, we all wanted them to do well, obviously, but none of us thought that they would. We actually thought there's a decent chance of them going out at the group stage. And there still is a chance. They've got this really big game against Uruguay coming up. Yeah,
it's a tough game against Uruguay. It's not going to be easy. I mean, Uruguay have got a very good squad and players that can make a difference to any game, whether that's an Olympics or in a World Cup or in Premier League. I mean, they've got some really top draw footballers. So it's not going to be a walk in the park.
I mean, one thing that occurs to me is that obviously the English high street bookmakers, they know there's going to be a welter of patriotic money.
Correct.
Because they're on the British high street, so to speak. You guys are slightly different. So does that mean, do you think generally that your odds about, not just Team GB, but say England internationals, do you think generally slightly bigger prices about England?
Well, yeah, we're not biased, so to speak, and we're not covering a liability. So I imagine our prices are quite a barometer and probably better value to the punters, and because we're not covering that liability, so we can offer what we think is a fair price.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, so if you fancy Team GB or England in the future, maybe you want to have a look at Unibet's prices. Let's have a look at the outright market then, which Butler has. I presume, like me, Butler, despite the fact that England squeezed past United Arab Emirates, you haven't changed your view that we're going to struggle to get out of this group.
No, I haven't. I think that basically we've done okay. We won 3-1 against United Arab Emirates, but for long periods of time they were the better side. And the thing is now we're right on the edge, aren't we? We can either win and progress to the quarterfinals, or we can go out on just a one game. I'm more agreeing with the latter. And the only reason Great Britain is shortened is nothing to do with the performance they've done on the pitch. It's the fact that Spain aren't there. So there's a huge percentage of the book gone because the price of Spain aren't there. Now these prices here, I mean, I think these are Unibet's prices here or major bookmakers' high street prices here. But Great Britain are 9-1 now. They are the second favourites for the competition, but nothing has really changed on these prices. Uruguay have got bigger, Mexico and Japan, Senegal have got a little bit shorter. All that's happened is Brazil have gone very, very, very short because the main percentage of the book has come from Spain, and which has meant that everyone's saying this is an absolute certainty for Brazil to win it. And what we've seen so far, there is absolutely no doubt about it. Brazil are in a different league to all these teams completely. Now, for me, Brazil 7-11. That kind of price, your odds on 4-5, any price like that, you're 4-6. You've got to get on the Brazilians. They have absolute talent in abundance. They will get through this game so easy because one of these two teams here, GB or Uruguay, are going to go out. And what's going to happen is they're going to shorten even further. So they're going to be left to the competition where Brazil against whoever, Great Britain or Uruguay, who potentially may not get to the semi-final. A final could be against one of these ones where Brazil in the final could be around about 1-6. So even though they're short, Brazil just look the massive bet for me. They look absolutely the value, even at the short odds on, and I just cannot see how they can get beat in this competition, despite GB doing okay. And the only reason they're the second favourites is because Spain have gone out, but they could be out this time tomorrow, or you know, they could be out, or they could be a little bit shorter. But whatever happens is Brazil will not be that price tomorrow regardless, because one of these two sides are going to go out and they'll be 1 to 2 shots in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the same might apply, Butler, to Senegal in terms of their price might shorten because obviously, as you say, one of GB or Uruguay goes out. I was really impressed with Senegal against Uruguay. I mean, they had a player sent off. They still won 2-0. Are they a bit big at 16s, or is that just me being optimistic?
Well, I think the thing is they probably are a bit bigger than 16s. But if the draw, whoever they play in the final, say they play Brazil in the final, Brazil will be 5 on. You know, so you've got to look at someone who's going to progress to the final. If they play them, they're still going to be massive outsiders. This happens in all sports. If you get a red hot favourite like a Phil Taylor or Roger Federer in tennis, people look at their value elsewhere to say, you know, if they get to the final, we could trade out, or if they get to the final, they'd be half the price they are. But everyone takes their eye off the short prices, because what happens is they go percentage-wise massively short, because they go from 8 to 11 to 1 to 5, and it's much better value to back these guys rather than someone you could hope for who could potentially go out all the way through. So for me, Brazil, you've got to be on Brazil. You've got to be on them, because I think their path to the final looks assured. And if they play anyone in the final, they will be red hot. And I'm talking red hot favourites. And they will have, if GB aren't there, you're talking about crowd support. There will be 82,000 people cheering for Brazil.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right. I mean, I'm presuming, Mike, that Spain going out so unexpectedly was probably good news for you guys, because there have been quite a few backers of Spain.
Fantastic. They were our biggest liability.
Were they really?
Yeah. So yeah, it's great for us that they went out at such an early stage. But we saw some money on Japan after Japan beat them and beat them quite well. So it does work out in different ways. But Spain were a massive liability.
And I'm presuming Brazil are your second biggest liability.
Definitely. We don't want them to win.
And I mean, I just can't see. I'm with Butler here. I don't like backing odds on, but Neymar, Oscar, etc. They've just looked magnificent, haven't they?
They are, and they've got an abundance of talent, and it's so hard to look past every position. You see another fantastic youngster, and especially with Neymar and Oscar and all these great names that will probably be massive in years to come in World Cups.
Okay, let's move it on to the diving. I'm going to talk about Tom Daley in a moment, but I just want to ask you first, Mark. I mean, presumably you obviously can't have, or Unibet can't have, a specific odds compiler for every single Olympic sport. You'd be employing about 50 people. So someone who's doing the diving, presumably you only price this kind of market up once every 4 years, or maybe occasionally if there's a world championship. I mean, they've got to do quite a bit of research, your guys, on this, haven't they, to get it right?
Definitely. I mean, you can always take the easy version that the Chinese person's going to win. I think with the diving, that's a given at the moment. But yeah, the research has to go into it, and I mean, I spend hours and hours behind the scenes looking at tapes of previous competitions and form and injury. So yeah, it's not an easy thing to price up.
And kind of emotionally, if nothing else, I think the whole of the country wants Tom Daley to win a medal. It doesn't even matter what colour. A bronze would do. After the heartbreak he's had yesterday in fourth, the fact that he's obviously it's the sad news about his father and the ridiculous guy who's been twittering him in. It's all kind of built up to what could be a happy ending to it if he succeeds. And of course, his partner Pete Waterford apologised to him, didn't he? Because he was the one that really made the error in the synchronised yesterday. He must have a decent... If he can produce the form he showed in the synchronised as a solo diver, I would think he must have a good chance.
He's got a good chance, and we have seen some strong money on him, and he is second favourite behind the Chinese guy. I can't remember it. Kui Bu, I think his name is. We have seen some money, and it would be such a nice story for the public. I mean, it was unlucky yesterday. They were one dive away from getting the medal, and it was such a shame to see that happen. But I think you're right. Everyone would love to see him win gold.
I mean, at one stage, Butler, they were in the lead, weren't they? Before that, they threw that poor dive in, and the Chinese overtook them. So Daley presumably is a shortish price behind the Chinese favourite here. Yeah,
very short. I mean, the Chinese guy Kui Bu is the big favourite here. I mean, there's a huge variation in prices. Some bookmakers are 4 to 7. I'm not sure. Don't put my head there. Anyway. Kui Bu is about 4 to 7 with some bookmakers, 1 to 3 with other big bookmakers. He's an absolute certainty, in my opinion. I mean, I've done all the studying. I've looked at all the videos, and I've also looked at 5 minutes, and I've come to the conclusion the Chinese guy wins it, and I think he wins it easy. I tell you the other thing, what we saw yesterday, I mean, with Tom Daley and Pete Waterman, he's got to go back to producing Sonia and Sunita and Jason Donovan records after that performance. He's no diver anymore. But Tom Daley's the second favourite, 3 to 5. This is a very interesting pricing by Unique on 3 to 5. That is one of the best around. That is the best price you can find this guy, and I think that's a serious bet here. I think they're putting their neck on the line, Unibet. I mean, people are saying that they know. Obviously, there are more European people who go make form in a book. They've got a quite short Tom Daley here, but Qui Bo here represents an absolute fantastic bet for me. I think he's unbeaten in this for all season. Chinese won every single diving gold at the recent World Championship, and this is a monster bet here, because you think some bookmakers going 1 to 3, as short as 1 to 2 to 7 in some places. 3 to 5 is a very, very generous offer from Unibet here, and I think it's one offer we've got, us punters have got to take up, because I think for him to bounce back after disappointment so quickly, and obviously what's gone on in his personal life, and obviously a young lad to get abused like he did, which was disgraceful abuse, I think it plays into the hands of Qui Bo, and I think some sentimental support will come for Tom Daley, but it's all about this man here for me, and this is a monster fight. Pete Waterfield, whatever his name is, get back to Sonia. He's not going to win anything. His head's gone. He's completely gone that game. But Qui Bo, 3 to 5. That is, I'll be opening a Unibet account on the way home, because I think that's a bit of value. That.
I think he's also the chairman of Milton Keynes Dons, isn't he? Yeah, so your guys obviously happy to take on this Chinaman if your best price in the village at 3 to 5.
Well, yeah. I mean, sometimes you've got to take a stance with a price like that and try and make a stance in the market. And for example, he wants to open a Unibet account, so there's the value of the price. There's the value of the price.
Absolutely, get the punters in for sure. Let's talk cycling, because after the disappointment of Mark Cavendish when he was tipped up by all and sundry, went off odds on, didn't do it in the road race for various different reasons. We got Bradley Wiggins, the Tour de France winner in the time trial. Surely he's got to land gold, hasn't he?
Well, as you said before, with the diving, it's difficult to kind of, there's not much form behind it. But with the cycling, there's so many events, and the Tour de France just been. So that's a good barometer of where the athletes are. And Wiggins was so dominant in the time trial, so you've really got to back him.
Well, I will be backing him, but I'm interested in whether Butler will, because I remember doing the show on Friday, Butler, when you stood there proudly with your betting slip with a bet that you'd got on Cavendish at odds against, and of course that all went pear-shaped. Will you be recouping losses on Mr. Wiggins or not?
It's smash out time. It's smash out time. We're going double in. We're backing Wiggins. I tell you what, I've got an angle on this. I've got more of an angle. I think he will win. I think absolutely superb in the time trials in the Tour de France. He is the man to beat. He's absolutely playing. He's the biggest star in the cycling world. He's 5 to 9. And this is another one. Big discrepancy with the bookmakers. 8 to 15 with some bookmakers. 1 to 3, 5 to 9, around about 2 to 1 on that kind of price there for Mr. Wiggins. Cadel Evans is pulled out for fatigue. He's not in the competition. So 66 to 1 shot here. You've got two of his teammates here, Martin and Froome. Cancelo fell off in the road race. But one thing here, Bradley Wiggins, if he wins the first gold medal, which I fully expect him to do, and he wins the Tour de France, instead of backing him for this, you have got to back him at 4 to 6 to win the Sports Personality of the Year. Because there is no doubt about it, he's a much better value, because there is no way he cannot win the Sports Personality of the Year if he doesn't win the first gold and the Tour de France. And I think he's an absolute knocking, but that's how I'll be playing this. I think he will win this, but I think the value lies on Sports Personality of the Year rather than take the 5 to 9 or the 3 on some bookmakers are offering him winning the time trials, because he's dominant in his form. He's won every single time trial in the Tour de France. But I think get on him now for Sports Personality of the Year. That's definitely the value play.
All right, well, interesting actually that some of those bookmakers are still quoting Evans. He's definitely not going to take part. And I've just worked out, if you did the double, the Chinese diver and Bradley Wiggins, that pays significantly better than even money. So you might want to have a look at that. We've come to the end of part 2. Where's the time gone? When we come back, we are talking medals. And can GB improve on our pretty meagre haul so far? See you in a minute. Welcome back. You're watching The Punter on this Tuesday evening on Sports Tonight. My name's Trevor Harris, along with Mike Pett from Unibet. I think the press, Mike, have been a bit harsh on Team GB. OK, we've only got 4 medals, but at the same stage in Beijing, we only had 4 medals. Admittedly, a couple were gold because of our road race success. But a lot of our strong events to come, things like the sailing, when they get out on the bike track and the velodrome, I see no reason for mass pessimism, do you?
No, not at all. I mean, the betting hasn't slowed down on Team GB in the medals. I think people realise that it is the press being negative about it rather than poor performance. And we've got some excellent events coming. We've got the cycling, we've got the sailing, we've got the rowing, and we're generally very strong in those events in past Olympics. So I think that it's a good time to bet on the market.
I mean, we were having a discussion, Butler, off air earlier, weren't we, about how in some of these lesser sports, and certainly it includes sailing as one of those, and probably rowing as well. The favourites are more of a certainty than they are in some of the bigger events. So is it time to go against the odds and back GB for more medals than the spread suggests?
Yeah, I mean, what it was at the very beginning of the competition, we were pitched around about 72, 73 medals. That seemed very, very high. And obviously, what we've seen so far is we haven't got the medals that we expected. Now, you look at it, Cavendish didn't deliver, Daly didn't deliver. I think the biggest disappointment was the swimming. I mean, we expected to get a couple of bronzes, maybe a couple of silvers in that. We didn't do anything on them. Now, have we dropped by 10? I don't think we dropped by 10. I think we probably dropped by about 5. So I will be pitching the line around about 60, 63, 64. And that's why this under 62.5 here, there's a massive reaction. Everyone's saying, oh, you know, we're just reacting to what we've seen. We're not going to do good. We're disappointed in that. You know, you see the boys behind there, the wanted, they're picking up their gold medals. They weren't expecting to get anything. So that was a medal come out of nowhere. And that's what you need if you're going to go over in these markets. People who have got no expectation and just get medals we're going to pick up on. And I don't see where we can get really many other medals that we're not really expected to do it. And the pressure is on all our guys to do it. So if this line here is all about guys expected to do well, and I don't think there's much downside. That's why the punters are coming on. I think it's pitched around about right. I think we'll end up with about sort of 60, 63, that kind of medals. I think this is bang, bang right. But if I was taking a little view, I think I'd go over 62.5 at 11-5, because I think if we have one good day at the rowing or at the cycling, this line will rise up. And I don't think there's going to be a huge deviation from this price. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to back over 62.5 now at 11-5. And then if it goes up by 4 or 5, back the under. Around about even money or something like that. And if I can get a gap, 62, 63, 64, 65 in the middle and win both ways, that's what I'm trying to do, because I don't think this will score too much away from what we anticipate. I think we'll get around about this mark, and I think if we can play it that way, we've got a great chance of copying on both bets.
Yeah, they call it arbitrage, don't they, in the city, when you have a no-win situation like that. And the other great thing about that kind of bet is it gives you an interest on every single event for the whole of the games, whether it's fencing, judo, yachting, you name it, you're out there with you screaming for your GB if you go over.
Well, definitely. I know someone that's backed China to get the most gold medals in the games, and I
have as well.
Oh, excellent. And he's loving every event because he's watching it and he's seeing it from a different viewpoint from everyone else. So yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll come to that in a minute, because it's an interesting market that Butler and I have opposing views about. Just a few markets like that we have. I want to talk to you about golds, GB golds in particular. None so far. It looks, as far as it can be, nailed on in sport, that we're going to win one tomorrow in the rowing. And there are plenty of other potential gold medalists. Alistair Brownlee will win the triathlon unless he crashes on the bike, and there are others. Do you think it's time now? Because when the BBC show the medals table at the end of every show, and it says Great Britain on the total medals 4, gold medals 0, it's easy to think, oh right, well I'll go under the market, but you need to take a slightly longer-term view, see what events are coming up, and maybe buck the trend a bit and go with the better price. We just heard Nigel suggesting we do that on the total medals.
Well, as you mentioned before, in previous Olympics we started off fairly slowly. I know we picked up a couple of golds in a couple of events. But I mean, we're seeing the most money on between 13 and 15 golds, which I think is about right from my view, and I think that's roughly what we're going to win. We've got a lot of good athletes still to come.
Yeah, that still represents an interesting drop, doesn't it, Nigel? From where the gold medals were pitched at the start, I think it was around 21, 22, wasn't it?
It was as high as 24.5 when the line first come out. Then it went to 23.5. There was some really good money for 23.5. Now it's 22.5 at the short 1 to 3. But if you want to play more even money, Mark, 5 to 6 to 2, it's 20.5. I think you've got to go under. I still think this is pitched far, far too high. And the reason why I think about it, if you look at some of these Chinese guys to win their events, they're 101, 102 to win the events, and they're winning them. Our best hopes are around about 135, 140, apart from one of the rowers. You know what I mean? Look at Bradley Wiggins, he's like 155 on decimal, 8 to 15, that kind of price. What the Chinese are 1 to 100. So really, there's a downside of us not getting a gold medal. There's a great chance of us getting a medal. We're probably about 1 to 33, 1 to 25 to get a medal, but we're backing ourselves at 8 to 15. Now, if all these red hot shots got the medal, we'd probably only be around about 22, 23. They've all got to win. And there's not many people out of the pack, like the gymnasts yesterday, who I can't think of many others who are going to come to that. And that's why I think this under 22 and a half, and even more so, the under 20 and a half. You know, Unibet there are saying they're seeing money for 13 and 15. I think that's a fantastic call. And I think it's probably a better spread bet. If you like your spread betting, I think go under 21 and a half for, say, £10 a gold medal. And if we get 15, you get 6.5 times your difference. So you win £65. I think that would be where I'd be playing. I can't see there's very, very, very little upside in going over under 21, 22 and a half. If we have an unbelievable games, we get 24 gold medals. If we have a disastrous games, which could be potentially, we could only get 8 gold medals. I think all the upside is going under, and I think that's where you want to be heading.
And it's one of the things, Nigel, as well, isn't it, that you can, as you mentioned there briefly, you can find a bookmaker that will actually pitch the level where you want it. So if you don't want to play at 1 to 3, you can find the level at 21 golds or 20 golds. And as you go down, obviously the price on attaining them goes up. So you can kind of make your own decision in terms of, right, I think GB are going to win this many golds and this is the value. Because 1 to 3, I think that is a certainty for me. But I don't like 1 to 3, so I might go and try and find, say, 19 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you look around, people have got different lines, people have got different pitches. I mean, Unibet there, Mike was saying, are offering individual strands of bets, so like, you know, 1 to 3, 3 to 5, etc., all the way up in groups of 2, which is very similar to a winning margin in a rugby game or an American football game. And I think if you're looking at that market, that may offer you some value. I mean, 13 to 15, we hear there that this is not GB pump. This is what I quite like. The Unibet give it a total different spin on it. This is what the Scandinavians and the Europeans who follow athletics and minor sports like this religiously, that is the mark I want to see. I mean, if I had the Unibet field book, I'd be having a field day because I think their punters would get it right more often than not in these kind of things. And if they're saying 13 to 15, I think that could be some real huge value. That's a great marker for me and anyone playing this GB total gold medals. I mean, if you look at William Hill's market, it will be all your patriotic fans having over 22 and a half, exactly what you said, having a bit of interest, which are making their book lopsided. The Unibet book will be people who know exactly what they're doing and they're going 13 to 15. So that's highlighting exactly how far this market is out. So I think definitely play under 20 and a half, under 19 and a half. And if you can afford to pay the 3 on, I certainly can't, go on under 22 and a half because we are not going to get anywhere near the gold medals. But I still think we'll get the number of medals because I think the chance of us getting a medal in these events are very strong. But our chance of gold, we're not 100 on, we're not 50 on like the Chinese or the USA. We're 8 to 15, we're 4 to 7, we're 1 to 3. We're favourites that could be beat, but we're very, very big odds on to get a medal.
I'm curious what you think, Mike, in terms of the kind of people that have these bets on, whether it's GB or any other nation's medals. Do you think they are just kind of fun, patriotic, I want to have an interest bets? Or do you think some of these guys have actually sat there, done all the hard work, burnt the midnight oil, looked at all these events and tried to calculate how many golds specific nations will win?
I think it's a mix between the two more than anything. You do get your novice punters who are just looking for a bet that's going to make some things more interesting.
Yeah.
But then there is some fantastic value in these markets. I mean, between 13 and 15 medals is 9 to 2 with Unibet. And I think that's a really good price.
That is a good price.
And that's where you get your value. And I think the people that actually put the research in and the big bets on it, I think we see a lot of them as well. But on the other side of it, there is a split towards the novice punter.
All right. Well, I'm glad it's you on with me tonight, Bet Butler, because I seem to recall a few shows ago you were advising the USA as most golds. Myself and, as you know, Chris were very sweet on China. We got 7 to 4 a couple of weeks ago. Early days, I know, but it is 10-6 to the Chinese. And the other thing that goes against the States is I think the States have won 7 or 8 silvers. So that's 7 or 8 gold chances gone. Are you prepared to admit the error of your ways, or are you still siding with the Americans?
USA! USA! I'll tell you something, mate. I didn't know there was many USA archers. I didn't know there was any USA divers. You wait till this athletics come. How many Chinese are going to be there? Not many. Not many. You've had your start. I think you need to be 6 clear in this market. Talking about overreactions, this 2 to 1 on is a massive overreaction. You coming into the next few weeks, the USA coming into the events that they really want to be involved in. The ones that the ribbon events, the running, the athletics, the ones they've got chances, the football with, these Chinese, they're okay. They're doing all right at the moment. But let's just see. Let's just see at the end of the day. This is an overreaction. I'm going in again on Great Britain. I'm going in again on the USA at 6 to 4. I will lay 2 on China. What this is bookies running scared because everyone's coming in at 7 to 4. Everyone followed you two in there at the 7 to 4, but they've overreacted. The Americans are coming good at their events. We expected China to be in the lead. I would be more worried that you should be more than that clear. You should be 10 clear by now.
You're the one that always preaches try and get value. So you have to accept at least
and
Chris
USA
and I have got the value.
USA are value now. If I was you, I'm urging you boys. I'm telling you now. If you've got on the 7-4, make sure you hedge on USA. Talking of value, GB 66 to 1, one of the worst bets ever. That should be 660 to 1. They aren't that. This is a 2-runner race. But I tell you what, Trev. Don't be so clever yet, mate. There's a long way to go.
There is.
I would make sure you back this USA a little hedge. I don't want to see you boys losing your money, mate. I'm telling you now, get on the USA at 6-4, and you can win it both ways.
I may well take your advice and do that. What do you think, USA or China? It's a fascinating market.
I liked China's value before,
right?
And I agree with the bet butler now that USA is the value. It is an overreaction. I mean, what are we 4 or 5 days in to see that swing in the price? I don't think it really. I don't think it's right.
No, I don't either. I mean, as he says, you think about guaranteed USA golds. The basketball is a given, and probably 8 or 9 on the track, and that's when it's going to get really tight. I think.
Definitely, it's going to be close, closer than I really thought. But I do think that's an overreaction.
Okay. We'll look at Unibet markets tonight on the Punter. Thank you for your company. One part left, and we're going to talk racing, cricket and golf when we come back. Welcome back to the final part of tonight's Punter on Sports Tonight. You might have heard Nigel before the break talking about massive odds-on shots, some of the Chinese in the diving and similar. Well, Frankel in the Sussex Stakes tomorrow is going to be around about, we think, about 1 to 19. Ridiculous odds-on. But having said that, a magnificent horse. And you just can't see anything beating him ever at the moment.
It's a dead market because no one wants to back Frankel at the price, and no one wants to back any of the other horses because they haven't got a chance.
No.
So he's an unbelievable horse. Have we ever seen anything like it? I'm not sure.
I mean, it's fantastic for kind of casual viewers to watch Frankel in action. It's a magnificent sight, but as you say, from a bookmaker's point of view, and from a punter's as well, you've got the punter's reduced to playing forecasts or some other kind of bet.
Yeah, you're looking at betting without markets. You take Frankel out of the equation, and the other horse in the race, I think his name's Far. He's actually quite a good horse. He lost to So You Think at Ascot, and So You Think's an excellent horse, and then another Grade 1 event. He only lost by half a length, I think it was. So Far should finish second. But yeah, you're looking at the betting without markets and the forecast because Frankel's going to walk it.
Yeah, well, Frankel will walk it almost certainly, and I think the odds that the bet butler has illustrates just how dominant he is in the market.
Yeah, I mean, he is probably the shortest price I can remember for racehorse certainly in my experience of betting in such a high-profile event. Not, you see 1 to 20 shots and 1 to 10 shots over the jumps at Southwell in a 3-runner race, but not in the Sussex Stakes at Glorious Goodwood. It's quite interesting. I mean, I've actually laid Frankel the last 3 or 4 times and absolutely got it wrong so badly. But it will come a cropper one day. I don't think it will go all the way unbeaten. I think it can get beat. And, you've got to take a chance at 1 to 19. This is a market that basically is around betting exchanges. I mean, for the fixed odds of Unibet and other bookmakers out there, they're going to have to come up with specials, how far Frankel will win, betting without the favourite. But this is a market that on the betting exchanges, you will see millions of pounds bet. And all of it, 99.9% of it, will be around Frankel. And I think tomorrow, Far is a horse that really does go on soft ground. And I think if anything can beat Frankel, it's the weather. That's the only thing can they beat. I mean, you see when it's won on really good ground, it's gone away on good to firm ground, and it's won convincingly. But if anything can get it beat, it's rain and heavy ground. And if that happens, Far is a soft ground, loves the mud. He loves the... So I think tomorrow, if there is a bit of rain, I would definitely lay Frankel here. And what I would do, this is how I would play it, I'd lay him at the pre-event at 20 on, and I'd put to back him back in running around about 1 to 3, 1 to 4, because I still think Frankel will win it, but I certainly can't see him winning by 10 lengths, 12 lengths, 8 lengths, that kind of stuff that the odds would suggest. And I think if you're going to play the game tomorrow and watch it and you want to have a bet, some bookies will come up with probably margins on how to win, how far he's going to win. And I think if they go silly, like 5.5, 6.5 lengths, repeat, if the ground is definitely boggy, I think it could definitely be under, because Frankel, it doesn't usually ease up. He goes away and wins comfortably. But tomorrow, the only thing that can get this horse beat or make it a struggle and make it competitive is the ground.
Yeah, I remember last year he beat Camford Hills, didn't he? 5 lengths in the same race. And that was kind of billed as this, big duel. and it never materialised, and obviously now we're not building it up tomorrow. And the other thing, when you said earlier about, you know, the punters don't have much choice in which markets to play, and all of the bookies going to get much interest in this, and no other trainers and owners want to pitch their horse in against Franco. There's only 3 rivals tomorrow.
Well, yeah, and one of those is his payment. It's the pacemaker.
But yeah.
So it's virtually against 2 horses. There is absolutely no value or interest in the market whatsoever, which is a shame for such a good horse to be in that situation.
And for such a prestigious race as well. Comes to that.
Yeah, correct. I mean, it is a prestigious race. It's quite a famous race, and to see Frankel stroll away doesn't really do it justice.
Okay. Well, the butler was mentioning about the weather being the only thing that could beat Frankel. The weather may yet have an impact in the Test match, which starts on Thursday, England-South Africa. England coming from behind, or they'll have to come from behind if they're going to get back into this series. It strikes me that your odds makers would have had a really hard job pricing this second Test, because England were favourites before the first Test, got walloped, took 2 wickets in the whole match, lost by an innings. So do your odds makers think, OK, we made a mistake, we were wrong, or do they think, no, it was a blip, England are #1 in the world? I mean, I think it's tough to price this match up, you know.
I spoke to the odds compiler about this exact subject,
right.
and what he said to me was that he still feels that England are a good side and a good batting side. And if there's going to be rain in play, are South Africa going to take 20 wickets? I know England struggled, but they still made 380 in the first innings, and they should have made more.
They should have, yeah.
They should have made more. They made a few mistakes, but they are a good batting side. And if the rain is going to take 2 or 3 days out of the equation, I think the draw is definitely the best value, and it's one we've seen the most money on.
Well, you were sweet on the draw the other night, Butler. I have checked the forecast after your kind of Michael Fish thing, and I can tell you that Thursday and Friday, not too bad, just the odd shower. Saturday doesn't look very good, so I'm presuming that, I think the draw was 11:08 when we spoke to you a few days ago. I presume it's shorter now, is it?
It was 11:08. It's been short. There's been money for it all the time. It's into 3-2 there. I mean, that's a little bit bigger. They're going that's quite a big price at 6-4. So that Unibet going the best price again here. I think it offers punters some good value, 6-4. I did say to you last week about the cricket. You obviously know I'm not exactly the race judge. For my bowling last week, you knew I'm not exactly the best cricket judge in the world. But the true reason is my mate Dave, who's very good at cricket, rang me up and told me about the draw. So and he never really gets it wrong. So thanks, Dave, for telling me about the draw. 11:08 now, 6-4 Unibet. Cheers, mate. Keep them coming. But I tell you what, I think the draw is definitely value. I think we will see a washout. And like I said in the first match, I almost got it right in the first match going for the draw. Everyone said the stats would tell you they were the best way to lay draws in Test matches. I saw it hit 4-1 on in running, never got through. The South Africans just put on an absolute fantastic batting display. And I think both these two teams can bat all day, and that was the reasoning why. With the bad weather and the fact they've got what you guys are saying there, how well they can bat, I think the draw is the only option at 6-4, because you can't back England at 2-1, because we know how they're like a wounded tiger. Can they come back from that embarrassment? And we certainly can't back South Africa at 2-1, in my opinion. So I just think the draw at 6-4 here, and I still think the Test series draw is a huge runner, and because I think England can win up the final Test. So I'm all over the draw again. And I think this is a great price. Again, Unibet have put the best price out in the market here at 6-4, and I can see plenty of people coming for that.
Can I just establish what your tactics are here, Butler? Are you back in the draw at 6-4 to literally put the slip in your back pocket and leave it there for 5 days and then hopefully collect? Or are you doing it because you're certain the draw will be a much shorter price in running and you can lay it off?
I personally think, if someone asked me now the question what I think the outcome of the match would be a draw, and the fact the weather conditions are so bad, and the fact the forecast is so bad, and also that the both can score runs. If someone asked me how I would bet, I'd probably be the draw around about 11-10. So 6-4 represents huge value for me. But at some part of the series, things can change, and then suddenly I'll look at it differently. The weather might not be so bad, or there might be even more rain, and then I might look to take a little bit of a profit, half mistake or whatever. But at the moment, on these 3 prices, just purely from a betting situation, from what I saw in the first Test, the fact they can both bat, the fact the bowling attacks didn't really offer anything at all, especially the England bowling attack, I think the draw represents huge value at 6-4, and I think that will certainly, absolute certainty, be trading a lot shorter. So the first thing I always say is get the value straight away and get on, and you're sort of halfway there to backing a winner. And I think if we take the 6-4 now, we could be around about 5-4, 11-10 by the time these two start the second Test, and that's why I think it's got to be the bet.
I'm fascinated with what the majority of your punters do on Unibet, Mike. I mean, do most of them literally just have a bet, whether it's cricket or anything else, have a bet, sit back, watch the event, whether it takes 10 seconds if it's 100 metres, 5 days for a test match, and then either take their winnings or accept their loss? Or is there a little bit of manoeuvring? Do they try and sort of save their stake at least, or cover themselves when the prices change?
Yeah, again, as I said before, you kind of get a mix of punters. You see the majority of novice punters.
Yeah.
They're the people that come on once or twice a month and go, I'll have a bet on this, I'll have a bet on that, and I want something that happens quite quickly. Then you get the other people that will sit down and look at weather and look at form and all this stuff, and then put the bet on, find the value, and then they'll sit back and then they'll see whether the prices change, and then take another bet and then guarantee a profit.
All right. Well, Nigel was talking about wounded tigers a moment ago, and after his performance in the Open, or rather lack of performance, Tiger will be out for something better at the Bridgestone. It's the last USPGA Tour event before the USPGA itself. I kind of thought Tiger was so negative in the Open. I hardly hit a wood in the whole tournament. And in the end, if you keep having to play your approach from 200 yards, 220, something is going to give eventually. All right, it was top 4 or 5, but never really looked like winning it. Whereas the Bridgestone International, or Invitational, I should say, he wins it virtually every year. 7 or 8 times he's won it.
Yeah, and it's a strange thing. I mean, he barely took a driver, as you said, and he was quite conservative. He's won like that before at the Open, so I don't know whether that was the reason behind it. But Tiger's fantastic for us at Unibet. I mean, his price over the past 3 or 4 years, he's always favourite.
Yeah.
And he's very rarely won over the past few years. So he has been an absolute banker. And imagine that all the money that we lost when he was winning, has just been rolling back in but then you get some value with some other golfers as well. Someone like Luke Donald, Lee Westwood, all places a lot in events, and we see a lot of money on those 2 golfers especially. And Adam Scott is someone who's really dropped in the price since the end of the Open, and to start the betting this week, and we've seen a lot of money on Adam Scott.
Interesting. Okay, I'm presuming, Butler, that Tiger's at the head of the market again for this.
Yeah, he's the form horse. He's the man around this course. He's fast and he knows exactly what he's doing. He's 4-1, very, very short though, isn't it? Obviously, if you're doing the each way, you're going to have about even money that comes in the first 5. Would you be taking that? Not for me, despite his fantastic record. But he was dominant at the game. You got Adam Scott and Luke Donald. But Luke Donald finished the Open in great form. The final round, he was exceptional. He could look a little bit of value each way. Adam Scott, I just do not get this gabble on Adam Scott. How anybody can be backing Adam Scott after the way he fell apart? How can he put that turmoil and misery behind him and come back and perform here? If he does, it's an absolutely fantastic achievement. But for me, he would never have £1 note of my money ever again, especially in the final round if he's performed like that. Lee Westwood, I'll tell you what, Lee Westwood, I just think he's never ever going to win a major. And again, he just overachieves. Duffner, for me, 24-1, back in a course he liked, back on the States. He didn't really perform. He performed his snatches at the Open, hit the leaderboard in the second round. But he's a proven form horse round this course. He's also great on the US circuit. And Mahan, 24-1. For me, the value here is looking for the lesser-known Americans, the guys around the 25, 33-1 mark. Take on this Tiger. 4-1 is too short. Even money a place. Not for me, thank you very much. Donald, Scott, Westwood, McIlroy, not again, but go for the homegrown talent. Duffner and Mahan, I think they represent much, much better value than Tiger, because I think at the moment Jason Duffner is arguably the best player on the tour over there, and I think he could represent superb value at 25-1.
All right, well, I don't mind an American winning that. I just don't want him winning too many golds, or rather, at least not as many as the Chinese. Time has beaten us. Thanks very much to Mike from Unibet. It's been a great pleasure having you. Thanks to the Butler. Thanks to you for watching. I'm off for a while. Dan Roebuck will be here in the chair tomorrow night for another episode of The Punter. Until then, be lucky. Good night.
£5 to watch that. I don't know what the world's coming to.
But come on,
Olympic crazy.
No, I've got to stop you. I'm going to stop you there. This is outrageous. This is the Olympic Games. You're talking about women's club football. This is the Olympic Games. No. This is the home nations.
Mate, the thing is, 75,000 people. It will be quite intimidating. It'll be housewives from Surbiton and under 12-year-olds. So I don't think it's going to be really worrying Brazil here at even money, who are the silver medalists in the last Olympic Games. I mean, Team GB 49-20, around about 5-2, that kind of price. If you write your fractions, these are obviously Unibet's prices. That's a decent price for Team GB. And if you think 75,000 people are going to have a bet on it, say everyone had a tenner, you've got liabilities on it. But as I say, the under 7s, under 8s aren't allowed to bet, so that rules out 76,950 of them. So, I mean, you've got the Brazilians here at 47-20. I don't think a draw's a good result for either team. They've got to go and win it. GB have got to take the game to them, and that means for me, Brazil win the game. Even money, I think this is a great bet from Unibet here. A good price, even money. I tell you why they win it, because they play this kind of football all the time. They're used to the big crowds. They raise the game at the big occasion, and that is where this whole Olympics theme is going with Team GB. We aren't raising our game at the big occasions, and we can't look up the expectation. And tonight, in front of this kind of crowd, there's only one winner for me. Brazil here at even money show their true class, and that could turn out to be an absolute knocker of a bet, even money.
It's interesting. I mean, he makes a good point about the winners avoiding Japan. I think that is a valid point. And of course, a draw would mean Brazil win the group on superior goal difference. What kind? I mean, they don't play for draws, Brazil, do they? Whether they're women's teams, men's, it's not in their nature to do that.
No, definitely not. They're always going to be attacking. But as I said, both teams have got excellent defences. But you've pointed out the value of Marta. I mean, she's 13 to 8 to score tonight.
Wow, that is short, isn't it?
Which is very short, and that just shows the quality.
OK. Let's talk about the correct score then. Mike doesn't fancy goals, Butler. What about you?
I don't really either as well. I mean, obviously, looking at people are saying that both teams will qualify, but I think the importance of playing Japan means it's going to be a tight game. Both teams haven't conceded yet in the competition. Mike's absolutely right. They're both very defensively strong. But Brazil, all these markets here, Team GB, 9-1 the 1-0, 2-1 the 2-0, and 2-1, 12-1. I don't fancy any of them. I think that Brazil win this game 2-0. I think they might nick it 1 or 2-0, and I'll be concentrating on the Brazilian markets because I do think this even money's a decent bet. I think, you know, if you look at the form, the races coming into this competition, Brazil are in a different league. And just because the crowd has got 75,000 people there and the bookies will have big liabilities in GB means nothing. The Brazilians are the favourites here. These prices here, like I say, GB favourites 1-0, 9-1. But if you look at the Brazilian correct scores, that's where I'll be concentrating more on now. I'll be looking at Brazil to win 1-0 at 13-2 or Brazil to win 2-0 at 10-1 because we know they don't concede. I don't think GB have any threat going forward against his Brazilian defence. And I think here, back in these two combined at around about 7-2, a 1-0 and a 2-0 victory is exactly where you want to be heading tonight. I think it'll be tight. I think it'll be very tight for long periods of game. I think it could be a draw half-time and the Brazilians win it full-time, but I think they get a late goal, and that's why I'm going for Brazil 1-0, Brazil 2-0, and that's why I'm telling you punters to go. Get on the Brazil. But for me, instead of having a few quid on the correct score, I just think this even money with Unibet is too tempting for me. I've just got to be on Brazil to win the match.
You know what I think, Butler, with your dismissive attitude towards the supporters that are going to flock there tonight, your dismissal of...
heavily back in the Swedish women's team. So yeah, definitely.
And what are your thoughts on this GB versus Brazil game tomorrow?
I feel it'd be quite
tonight, sorry.
I feel it'd be quite cagey. I mean, both teams have really got nothing to play for.
Yeah. Well, they need to top the group. The top of the group's at stake, isn't it?
It is important, but I think maybe a few players are going to be rested.
Yeah.
Neither team has conceded a goal so far, so I see it's quite a low scoring. Perhaps I'd have to edge towards Brazil because of the quality of players they've got.
Yeah.
But then GB have got the home support, so to speak, a mass crowd at Wembley tonight. So yeah, there's a possibility they could win as well.
Yeah, their best player, by the way, Marta. I saw her at first hand in the Under-17 World Cup when I was covering it in Thailand about 8 years ago, and she is I mean, she is the standout female footballer in the world without any question. So I hope she plays tonight,
Definitely.
Just so that everyone, you know, she gets a maximum audience. Talking of maximising the audience, everyone tunes in to watch, not me, probably not even Mike, but the Bet Butler, who's here at his green screen. What do you make of this GB versus Brazil, Butler?
Well, you know what? I think it's going to be a really big game. I think it's a very important match. I disagree with you boys in the studio. I'll tell you why I think it is. I think the winners want to top the group because they avoid the reigning world champions, Japan. Because if you finish right up this group, you play the Japanese. If you win the group, you play one of the third-place teams. So I think it's a big game. The only thing I'm trying to think about is 75,000 people going there today. As we've seen about teams at GB, but they're already bringing the excuses out saying, oh, we're not used to the crowds, we're not used to the crowds. 75,000 people watching women's football. Has the world gone mental? I mean, if you look at the attendance for the FA Cup final here, the last FA Cup final, Birmingham against Chelsea, 8,723, and now 75,000 of you lunatics want to play 55.
Hello there, you are watching The Punter on Sports Tonight. My name is Trevor Harrison. Joining me tonight, making his punter debut, it's Mike Pett from Unibet. How are you, Mike?
Good, thank you. Yourself?
I'm very well. Just for the uninitiated, just explain who Unibet are.
Unibet are basically an online-only bookmaker, kind of
Right.
a rare breed in the UK, and we've been around for quite a while online, but we don't have any shop fronts, and we're trying to make a big push towards the UK market because we're very big in Scandinavia, but not so big in the UK at the moment.
Okay, well, that may well change. We're going to talk football first of all, Mike. Not the men, because they're not through yet, definitely, but the women are. And I watched their first game against New Zealand. I wasn't particularly impressed. They won the game, but it was a poor match, to be fair. Much better in the second game. And, of course, they got this classic showdown now, or group showdown at least, with the Brazilians. And I would imagine it's going to get quite a big audience tomorrow, and it might provoke a few bets for you guys. Yeah,
it's definitely a market that's taken us by surprise. We didn't feel it was going to be too popular, but yeah, the Team GB women have taken a lot of interest, and we've seen quite a lot of from bets on Team GB.
Yeah.
At the start, they weren't too popular, but since the tournament started, they've really started to see some bets coming through.
I suppose it's an obvious question, but especially with Unibet being based in Sweden, as you say, does the fact that the British team are doing well, at least from British punters that use your service, does that increase the kind of turnover of bets on it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a patriotic bet is a massive bet. So obviously the Swedes are...
GB having a chance in this game. I think if GB beat Brazil, you ought to present tomorrow's punter wearing a skirt. Is that a bet?
Not a problem, mate. Absolutely no problem whatsoever. And if Brazil went easy, we could think of one for you here. But let me tell you something about this. I mean, you talk about intimidating now. It's for Olympic Games. People go in there, mate. I went to the table tennis. That was not intimidating. You know, you go to see the water polo. You go to see... These are people just having fun. It's not just because there's bulk of people cheering. It's having a negative for us. It's not having a positive for us. It is. It really is, because they're just cheering at the wrong times. People don't even know the rules of handball. They start cheering at the wrong times. But tonight, we know about football, but this is going to be more intimidating for GB, without a shadow of a doubt. And 75,000 people, and you're used to paying 8,000. But it's not going to be people. It's not going to be an uplifting experience. It's going to be a more of, you know, that you would do in a pre-season event, people talking through the match, and that's why the Brazilians, who are used to playing in much bigger crowds, if you look at their attendances, they have about 35,000 people watch it. That's no bother for them, and they'll hose their game. And at Wembley, I always like to oppose England or GB at Wembley, because I think other teams now raise their game, and that's why this even money is a gift from the gods. That's going to be the martyr. It's the martyr. Get on the evens. Get on the evens, Brazil. The Samba girls.
He is a martyr to martyr, so to speak. Let's talk about the tournament in more general terms. Sort of under the not really under the radar, but I suppose because Team GB and Brazil have dominated the headlines.
Yeah.
USA have won their 2 games, and Japan, you know, might be highly rated, but the USA, every single World Cup, whatever age group, every single Olympics in recent years, they're always there or thereabouts.
Definitely, you can't deny the quality they've got. I know France took them to 2-0 to France.